Hi, welcome back. So it's been about 40 minutes since I wrapped up episode one. Um, got a drink, uh, had a little rest, and now we're back. Okay, no more detours. Empire of the Sun main quest. From pillar to post to another Anarch spot. Networking, right? With Parks temporarily out of the picture, it's on me to wring that Skylar Duskborn dry for every last drop of intel. Alright, let's do it. The area outside Empire of the Sun is pretty sparse, both with mortals and my fellow kindred, so chilling out front isn't a big deal. I blend in perfectly, all amped up for whatever's going down tonight. Still, old habits die hard, so I take a sec to study the area carefully, taking it in the way my con artist sensibilities demand. First off, it's mostly tame out here. The only dude catching my eye is this total nutjob parked by the door, screaming about doomsday, while rocking that coked up Al Pacino look. He's got that wild vibe, complete with drool and insanity in his eyes. Yikes. Even if I were still in the grifter game, I wouldn't bother with him. Lunatics like that are more trouble than they're worth, and they're usually broke to boot. And then there's the front of the dive, which looks, for lack of a better word, loved. Despite the dodgy neon and the graffiti that's actually kind of witty, the place radiates an inviting warmth. Yeah, this art is gorgeous. I would totally go here if I just saw it walking down the road. A place with a soul. Still, the Empire of the Sun sign, with Zoo scribbled next to it, is so on the nose I can't help chuckling on the inside. People clearly have fun at Sunny's and treat it as their place. A place they can return to again and again and again and never feel unwelcome. But I'm wasting precious time just standing out here. Gotta find Skylar before Patty comes back and gives me the look. I head for the entrance, doors decked out in all sorts of funny stickers. But before I can even touch the handle, the crazy guy grabs me with an unexpected speed for someone so curled up. I shake him off easily and give him my best back off glare. It does nothing. He's in his own world. Oh, it's coming. The reckoning. The reckoning is upon us. The signs. The signs. Hey, back off, will ya? Look up. Look up, damn you. It's death. Death, dressed in rays of light. It's watching us. The day star is waiting to cleanse us in fire. As I walk past the guy, his words echo in my head and rattle between the crevices of my brain, stirring long-dormant fears. Can you see it? The day star. It's the end of it all. I enter Sunny's, acting all cool and collected, as if none of that crazy shit fazed me. The interior looks exactly the way I expected it. A kaleidoscope of stickers, murals, lights, and banners covering pretty much every available surface, interspersed with well-worn seating, musical instruments, and plenty of space for dancing. To say that I've seen it hundreds of times before in dozens of cities doesn't quite capture the whole picture. But I gotta say, it feels like home. Spotting Skylar is easy with her head full of bleached dreadlocks. Besides, the bar is practically empty. Maybe all the kindred have gone to ring in the holiday season? Who knows? She's hunched over a table, completely focused on scribbling something in a notepad. She doesn't notice me as I approach, so I get a sneak peek at one of the pages and discover some gorgeous, intricate designs for, I assume, geometric tattoos. Wow, those are dope. You wink people up? I plop down right next to her, shaking her out of her reverie. She gives me a confused stare. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my old gig. Tough finding clients at night, huh? You could say that. Her eyes narrow on me, to which I respond with my brightest grin. Can I help you or something? Mata said you might be able to. My name's Kali. I'm looking for Reynard Cassell. Never heard of him, so if that's all. And where do you think you're going? I grab her by the collar as gently as I can and ease her back down. She resists a little, but let's be honest, a thin blood has nothing on a well-fed kindred. I keep her down easily, but my grin widens in a manner that is, hopefully, just a little bit threatening. I usually favor dodging conflict over sparking it, but this time my impulses steer me towards chaos, and I let the flood take take me like a ship on the windswept sea. Let go of me. Answer my questions, then. Reynard Cassel. Where is he? Look, I really don't know any Reynard Cassel or whatever, okay? Really, playing dumb. Do I look like I'm here for games? Cut the shit and talk. I have nothing to say to you, bitch. Let me go or I'll start screaming. How? You have no mouth. What? Oh, shit. I watch as her eyes bulge, hands grasping wildly at her face and finding nothing. Blocking the sense of touch is not something I do often. They can do that? But when the opportunity arises, it's always a sight to behold. I've never heard of this power. Before she could catch on to the illusion, I theatrically snap my fingers, bringing her attention back to my face. There we go, all back to normal. Now, where is Reynard Cassel? She touches her mouth, tugging at her lips, tracing the teeth, moving the jaw left and right a few times. Relief washes over her face, and she stutters a little when she speaks up. I honestly don't know. I've only heard bits and pieces about him. Any alchemist worth their salt knows all the major suppliers in the city. So you're an alchemist. Impressive. Screw you. Not sure where my genuine compliment went wrong, but okay. So what's the scoop on Cassel? Preferably his current whereabouts? I keep telling you, I've got no clue. I've never even laid eyes on him. Then give me something worthwhile. You're sort of wasting my time here, girlie. Love me a good chat, but I'm on the clock at the moment. Alright, chill out, will ya? I know someone. There's this courier. She delivers all sorts of shit all over the country. She can get you pretty much anything. She's tight with Cassel, alright? Interesting. Go on. Go on? Go on what? I smother the urge to roll my eyes. Go on, hook me up with her, like yesterday. All those threats and she still hesitates to help me. Well, the time for the stick has come and gone, now it's time for the carrot. I really wasn't lying when I told Mato I'd rather not make any more enemies in the city. Look, you're not exactly catching on here. I could just take your phone and set up the meeting myself. But I'm feeling generous, so I'm asking you. Politely, I might add. You call that polite? Trust me, you haven't seen my full-on rude side. I'll even sweeten the pot, alright? You set me a meeting with that courier of yours, and I'll clue you in on where I stashed my goods. Her ears perk up a little, but she still eyes me with great suspicion. What goods are we talking about? I flash her a reassuring grin, and though she recoils a little, her attempt at nonchalance fails miserably. Blood stashes, obviously. Top quality, best variety. All your little alchemist heart can possibly desire. Deal? I reach out my hand, pausing to give her the space to decide before I'm forced to make the decision for her. Luckily, after a brief deliberation, she reaches out and shakes my hand. Deal. Hold on, I'm gonna make a quick call. I nod and relax, keeping her in sight as she wanders over to the stage area and takes out her phone. I feel a twinge of guilt over how I treated her. Maybe I should have just started off with a whole blood stash thing. Yeah, well, I'm not exactly a planner, am I? If this courier leads me to leads me to Reynard tonight, this whole search could end in a matter of hours. Just the thought of freeing myself from the looming threats of the Camarilla, that annoying caitiff, this oh so futile endeavor. Ah, it warms the chambers of my undead heart. Finally, Skylar hangs up and gets back to the table, fidgeting with the charm hanging from her phone. A real bundle of nerves. Done. Meeting's in 15. Let's move. When it blazes brightest, we'll all be judged. Oh, he's a ghoul! A gentle snowfall greets me outside, gracefully covering the dirty sidewalks in a layer of pristine white and dusting the occasional pedestrian with soft, fleeting crowns. Skylar winces at the screams of the madman and brushes off the fallen snow. I, on the other hand, let it settle in my hair undisturbed. Snow never bothered me anyway. So, who are we meeting exactly, and where? The moment she opens her mouth, the perfectly serviceable vehicle cuts the corner with Pork hunched over the steering wheel, roiling storm cloud on his face. He pulls up carelessly and lunges towards Sunny's before noticing Skylar and me. He pauses, face scrunching in confusion. He seems genuinely surprised to see me, and I'm suspended somewhere between feeling smug for defying his expectations, exasperated that he has so little faith in my word, and slightly regretful. I never even attempted to flee, if only to gauge his reaction. Sadly, he regains his composure before I can tease him about it. You're here. That's good. Good, huh? Do contain your excitement, my good sir. It's unseemly in polite company. What would you have me say? Outstanding? It's a decent start, but I'd settle for divine. He rolls his eyes and settles his gaze on Skylar. They size each other up suspiciously, like a pair of alley cats on a hot tin roof. Patty, meet Skylar, a local anarch with a knack for alchemy. Skylar, meet Patty. It's Porrick, actually. Pleased to meet you, Skylar. Yeah, alright, you super formal goof. Skylar nods at him curtly. I can see the apprehension in her eyes, so I step in, hoping to keep up our fragile truce. Don't stress too much. Porrick might be a bit uptight, but he's alright. He's just here to offer us a lift, that's all. I am? Yep. I see. Skylar's eyes jump between Porrick and me, but in the end, she seems to give up on caution. Maybe the prospect of a ripe blood stash is keeping her on track. We need to get moving. The meeting place ain't far, but, well, night couriers aren't known for their patience. Let's hustle. A night courier, huh? Interesting. Who is this particular courier, exactly? She shrugs, making her way towards the caitiff's ride. Dunno. I only know her by the handle, and she always wears a helmet, so... As long as she's clued into Reynard's location. Seems like my kind of gal, too. Maybe I should start wearing something on my face, like a cool mask. Skylar mutters under her breath. Oh! A gag would be more fitting. Honestly, Patty and her would definitely hit it off. Birds of a feather, yada yada. Careful, or I'll gag you instead. She presses her lips together and gets into the car without another word. Satisfied, I nod to myself before turning to Porrick. Anyway, you done with the torque thing? Yes. His speedy response is slightly suspicious. I narrow my eyes and judge him openly, but he is completely unfazed. More importantly, what's all that about a night courier? I smile at him mischievously, fling the passenger door open, and there it is. Porrick's audible sigh. He's really fond of his mortal reactions to antics. To my antics. Voices of the angels, they seep poison into your ears. Heed not their honeyed words. The sudden commotion alerts me, and I'm instantly ready to pounce. The loony from before is kneeling before Porrick, clutching at the hem of his pants with his head thrown back and misted over eyes staring blankly into the night sky. He stopped screaming, but his lips quiver with faint whispers that fade into the air like smoke. Dream not in your slumber, for the day star will sear its truth onto your whole being. I sigh and roll my eyes, ready to toss a quip about like attracting like, but then I notice Porrick has not moved an inch. He's staring motionlessly into the man's eyes, completely frozen aside from his hand, fingers twitching wildly, spinning the dice ring. He's been fidgeting like that a lot, actually, now that I'm paying attention. Porrick? You okay there, buddy? No answer. The catatonic madman falls over onto the snow as I approach and gently free Porrick from his grasp. Porrick? Talk to me. What's going on? Suddenly, his hand stops. Then all of him unfreezes. He avoids my eyes and shoves his hands into his pockets. I am fine. Sure? What was that all about? I do not know. Let's not fret about it for now. The night courier is waiting. Okay, interesting. It's just suspicious. One thing about playing these games, or at least making playthroughs of them, is it keeps me hydrated. Night courier main quest. I thought I knew every fixer with whom Reynard had ties-ins, given my role as the logistics gal of our coterie. Maybe I'm just tired, but I have no clue who that night courier might be, and it sends my trickster senses into overdrive. Usually, I'd fill the car with some kind of idle talk, whether I'm with friends or just by myself, but this time, I just let the silence hang. Neither Porrick nor Skylar seems keen on chatting, not even with classic Queen tracks playing, so the caitiff's perfectly serviceable car, excuse you, vehicle, is almost uncomfortably quiet as we cruise through the night streets of New York City. I've got this strange sensation in my stomach, like I've eaten a chunk of ice. If Kindred could get indigestion, I blame it on my last mortal meal. But since that's not a thing, I guess this feeling must be anxiety. It's really not my usual vibe. Something about this whole situation makes the hairs on my neck stand right up. It feels like there's something terrifying waiting for me at our destination, just a few blocks away. But weirdly enough, my gut is telling me not to run from it. And my gut is usually spot on. As we pull up to the meeting spot, the night courier stands out immediately, mostly because she's the only one around. Clad in dark leathers and sporting a helmet, she almost disappears into the night alongside her bike. We barely come to a halt before Skylar jumps out of the car and approaches the courier in a few strides. She seems eager to talk and even more eager to bolt, so I keep my eye on her, ready to give chase. She looks like she might make a run for it. It's not even a question. I shoot a quick glance his way and catch him looking at Skylar just as intently as I am. Well, I most certainly wouldn't her place. The real question is whether she's willing to sacrifice access to my stash for that chance, and she seemed pretty keen to get her hands on it. I see. Well, let's hope her interest hasn't waned then. The moment Skylar pivots and heads our way, we cut the chatter and step out of the car. 5 minutes. That's all I could get for you. Spend it well. Her hand reaches out to me in a gesture that feels overly formal. I shake it vigorously, keeping my face utterly solemn. She jerks it away, clearly taken aback by my intensity. The key, you know, to your stash? I held at my end of the bargain. Yeah, I got it right here. I toss her the key, which she easily snags out of the air. Pleasure. With that, she's off into the night. As she disappears, we casually approach the night courier. One look at Porrick reveals a simmering impatience. I know he wants to take the lead, and honestly, while I'm not exactly thrilled to step aside, seems like a pragmatic choice. Let's face it, negotiations with Skylar went less than stellar, even by my standards. But Porrick hardly gets a word out before the courier cuts him off with a sharp, sour response. Shut the hell up, pretty boy. Wait. I know the sound of that walking angst vortex. Kali? The fuck did you get yourself into this time? She takes off her helmet and I'm floored, staring at a face I never thought I'd see again, outside of some vampire afterlife fantasy. Jesus. Oh, no, that doesn't say Jesus. Jess? Holy shit, is that actually you? Is that why you dragged my ass over here? To star in this shitty high school reunion? As prickly as ever, I'm dying to give her a hug, but her thundercloud of a face screams, back the fuck off. I settle for an awkward pat on the shoulder. Care to introduce me? Jess's eyes nearly pop out of her head. Oh, piss off. Is this really why I'm out here? What? No, hell no. It's, oh, let's just go one step at a time. Christ. Porrick, meet Jessica Wainwright. I know you like it formal. She was part of our crew before she up and vanished like a ghost, a year back or so. Speaking of which, we thought you were gone. For good, I mean. She seems thrown by that, but she swallows whatever rush of words is clawing at her throat. Oh, really? Well, that clears up most of the mystery of the silent phones. So we're playing it like that? I fucking warned you, you dick. Not like I can text beyond the grave. FYI, I left you guys a fucking note. This whole situation is surreal. The hell are you on about? Reynard said... Ah, of course. Reynard fucking Cassell, turning shit into gospel. Her deceptively soft features harden. Why the hell are you poking around for him anyway? Short version, Camarilla. The full scoop, He's off the grid, and now I'm neck deep in shit because the Camarilla wants him found. Right, and who's this charmer? I'm essentially the raft keeping her afloat in the cesspool she's plunged into. Not gonna lie, I jump up a little. I sort of forgot he was even there. I still toss him a wounded look and pout a little, while Jess lets out a hearty laugh. So I'm surfing this wave of horseshit with you? Oh, you filthy, filthy lifeline. The sheriff had him shadow me. I swear he's useful sometimes. Maybe it's the pretty yet infinitely punchable face that does it. Right. And you just went along with all this creeping around because why, exactly? You see, with 2025 right around the corner, I'm exploring my personality a bit. Plus, there was this whole get decapitated by a sheriff's blade thing hanging over my neck. So, yeah, I chose the lesser of two shit shows. She's clearly not amused. Stepping outside the gang has really changed her vibe. Hell, we used to get along swimmingly back when we were cramped in that RV together. Maybe a bit of real talk is what I need to melt the ice. I drop my voice as if I'm letting her back in on a deep, dark secret. Truth be told, there's gotta be something bigger at play with this whole mess. You hear me? I just can't figure out what the hell they want with Reynard, and why now of all times. Jess shrugs and crosses her arms over her chest, looking like she couldn't care less. Water's wet, the sky's blue, and piss stinks. By which I mean, underneath all that charm, Castle's been a two-faced, lying sack of shit from day one. No wonder the whole ivory tower's on his tail. Hold up. There's clearly bad blood between her and Reynard, and it's skewing her view a bit, maybe. Charming? Sure. I buy snake oil off the bastard, too, but he's always been straight with me. What's even worse, she has this horrid look in her eye I can only interpret as pity. The hell's there to pity? I'm doing just fine, thank you very much. Heard through the grapevine you might know where Castle's hiding. And Jess laughs at that. Am I losing my edge here? Oh, honey, Castle's in even deeper shit than Callie is. See, I've been involved with the circulatory system on and off, passing messages and whatnot. She leans back even further onto her bike, all cool and collected, like nothing gets to her. I almost follow, enraptured, but catch myself at the last moment and straighten up, signaling for her to continue. Word is, Castle shot up right to the top of their shit list just a couple nights back, based on some fresh intel they got from who knows where. Suddenly, she leans forward on her elbows, looking at me seriously. This is major league shit, Collie. Could be Uncle Sam level big. And it might not just be Castle in the crosshairs, but anyone tangled up with him. Keep the hell away. Yeah, except running away somehow vanished from my playbook. I'll literally lose my head over it. She shrugs and starts putting her helmet on. It's your problem, not mine. I bailed on that clusterfuck of a sire for a reason, and unlife's been beautiful ever since. Good fucking luck, though. Pause for dramatic effect. And don't bother calling me again. Then she's gone, just an engine roar fading into the night. Right back at you, bitch. Without looking at Park, I let out an awkward laugh and kick at some loose stones. She's quite something. How are you holding up? Seen better nights. That one cuts deep, though. So, the circulatory system, huh? What's your take? Horik, mercifully, bites his glib tongue and pretends not to see that I'm sorta in shambles. It appears they are more eager to nab Reynard Castle than we anticipated, and they managed to acquire some incriminating intel. To be honest, things don't look too good for him. Great, and we're still no closer to finding him than we were last night. Or whenever. There is also the matter of whether the circulatory system intends to hunt you as well, by virtue of being Reynard's accomplice. Oh please, I'm hardly even a sidekick. He levels a blank stare at me, and I bark out a laugh, my spirits momentarily lifted. I rub my hands together briskly, suddenly feeling like mischief. Well, seeing as your Anarch lead didn't really pan out, guess we're hitting Sansariq next. He hesitates, idly swirling his ring. More a tick than an actual need this time. It is indeed our backup lead, but only lead. Fine. At the moment, it is our only lead, but I have my reservations about Sansreek. I hope I'm saying that even remotely right. Let's unpack this back at my haven. Besides, dawn is nearly upon us. He starts walking towards the car, then pauses when he sees I haven't moved. I tug at the fraying edge of my sleeve, smiling at him almost apologetically. Yeah, funny story, but I literally can't. He sizes me up relentlessly. Callie, this isn't the moment for your antics. We need to move, and quickly. Thing is, your haven isn't safe for me anymore. What are you... It's just a thing with my clan. If I crash in the same spot for more than once a week, you might as well sweep me up with a sweep me up at sundown, like with a broom. He looks at me piercingly, searching for deceit, which, for once, isn't there. His fingers dance on his hand, spinning the ring furiously. Finally, they come to a stop. Yeah, I get it. I'm not messing around, Oh, you do? A hint of mirth sparkles in his gaze, though his expression remains stoic. Let's rendezvous at my place tomorrow night. I've got a private eye in mind who might have an idea where to find Sansreek. A P.I.? You're not talking about D'Angelo, are you? He arches an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise on his face. Already acquainted, I see. More like disappointed. The leper is a good guy, but a dead end. Grilled him about Reynard and got zilch. He even implied it was somehow my fault Reynard's vanished off the face of the earth. Well, Castle is practically a ghost. Sansreek, on the other hand, is not exactly hiding. D'Angelo should know a thing or two about him. Fair. But he's a slippery little eel. We might need leverage to get him talking. A shade of a smile crosses his face. Leave that to me. He'll talk. He turns around and climbs behind the perfectly serviceable wheel. Tomorrow dusk, my haven. Don't let me down. I give him a playful salute, waving as he pulls away. Ugh, look at that. Night's bleeding into day already. I really need to get a move on. There's a damp little cellar that I've been eyeing for a crash pad. It's not exactly the Ritz, but I've done my homework. It's secure enough for a quick sleepover. Time's ticking, but with any luck, I'll snag some prey en route. It's not good to sleep on an empty stomach after all. And I will drink some water. Alright, feeding opportunity, detour. The dance floor drenched in darkness, the beat dropping like it's on fire. Warm bodies pressed tight, buzzed high, and full of precious blood. This club is the prime spot to sink my teeth in. The moment I step into the club, I know it's an excellent place to hunt. Crowded with mortals blackout drunk and high out of their minds, swaying, jumping, and writhing on the dance floor like there's no tomorrow. Only tonight, only ecstasy. I'm gonna quench that awful, clawing thirst in no time. Let's see, what do we have here? You'd think that prowling for blood would be easier on the dance floor, but I know better. I was literally born at a rave. Twice. And spent both those lives dancing the nights away at clubs and bars. I know my way around like nobody else. Sure, some of the people leaning against the walls are there for a reason. To take a break, to have a drag, to find victims of their own. But some of them would just like to be a part of the crowd. It's just their inhibitions stopping them from stepping in. Boy, that's me. And I'm here to help them break those barriers. There's a guy sitting with his back against the wall, head in hands, tugging at his knees, hugging his knees, frozen, paralyzed, clearly on a bad trip. Somebody should haul him out and help him get sober. That somebody isn't me. I can already sense the jazzed up blood, the accelerated heartbeat right beneath his skin, and tonight I'm not in the mood for Molly. How about the teen twitching rhythmically in the corner, clearly too young to even be in the club? Should I teach them the dangers of the night before it's too late? Nah, too much effort. What if they imprint on me like some duckling? Besides, I've already decided on my target. There's a girl standing by the restrooms in sensible jeans and a tie-dye t-shirt. She has a flustered smile on her face and a beer can in her hand. I bet she poured it out and filled it with water so that none of her friends, long lost to the dancing crowd, felt uncomfortable around her. Her I can teach. I approach her straight on, a wide, inviting smile on my lips, and watch her shuffle her feet nervously. When I'm just inches away, she opens her mouth to say something, but instead I cover her lips with my own. I don't hear the surprised sound she makes, but I can feel it, the vibration in her throat under my palm. I skillfully take her by the hand and tug her outside, into a deserted alley with nothing but dumpsters. There I crowd her, a blushing mess, against a wall and kiss her again, knocking down her defenses like dominoes. She doesn't protest when I move my lips onto her neck and nibble on it. But she sure minds when I bare my fangs and take a bite. I don't drain her completely, of course, even though the amount I drink is not nearly enough to completely satisfy me. Honestly, it never is. I let go after a few sips and lower her gently onto the ground. She looks up at me, dazed, and struggles to get up, but I put a firm hand on her shoulder, keeping her down. She'll need a minute or two before her head stops spinning. So I just gently pat her on the cheek, ruffle her hair, and disappear into the night like I was never there. For the moment, I am almost sated. Alright, last resort. If you're a Ravnos, home is just a dead memory. You've only got a bunch of hideouts, some better than others, each offering a day's worth of safety, and one of them is close by, just waiting for me to hunker down and collect my thoughts. If D'Angelo's Haven qualifies as a hovel, then this temporary shelter of mine is a full-on catastrophe, so utterly dismal it could force Tommy Wiseau to shed a genuine tear. Mold is practically redecorating the ceiling, and let's not start on the bed, a suspiciously damp mattress that leaks some extra sus fluid onto the floor with each squeeze. Ew. Dude, I'd sleep on the floor. Home, sweet fucking home. But hey, at least it's pretty secure. There's zero chance of sunlight sneaking in here. Maybe because the resident microbes have evolved enough to shut out anything that threatens their germy utopia. I sprawl out on the lumpy mattress and sulk over my dead Walkman, cursing myself for not getting spare batteries. When Reynard pulled that thing out, I legit thought he was going to wiretap me. But turns out he was just giving me a piece of his past. A little gift from the better times, or whatever. Honestly, as if I needed another thing to play my tunes. Our gang is not as uptight about going online as the tower, so we stream just like everyone else. But I kinda got hooked, especially with the mountain of old cassettes crammed into our glove box. Digging through my belt bag in search of entertainment yields only the wooden stake that almost pierced my heart the night before. Shit, almost feels like another lifetime. But the stake sends my thoughts drifting to Porrick. I'm pretty conflicted, to be honest. Can I trust him? He seems to be on my side, caring even, but there's something off about him. Something unsettling. I can't put my finger on it. It doesn't help that he changes the length of my leash for no rhyme or reason. His mood swings faster than the San Francisco weather. It's so annoying that he's now indispensable to my survival. Except for tonight. He was anything but. Still, he introduced me to Mato. My gut's screaming that this is going to be a game changer for navigating the city, maybe even beyond. Skylar? Not so much. And Jess? Yeah, I'll hold off on poking at that sore spot for a bit longer. At least until after I shake off the dark sleep that's clawing at me. Eager, suffocating, steadily pulling me into the abyss. Meanwhile... Ritra's cruise ship. Who the fuck is that? I would say I've been more than considerate. She responds with silence, and that unnervingly calm, icy stare that could easily drive one to the brink of madness. It's a weapon she's honed to perfection. I thought I'd be used to it by now, but it slices through me as viciously as the first time. How long has it been now? 5, 6 months? Half a year trapped in this endless spin of justifications, half-truths, and unfulfilled promises constantly veered off course? Despite her alleged interest in my unique condition, despite our shared thirst for answers, despite the growing urgency, the resolution to my dilemma has always hovers just beyond my grasp. Still, she is the first kindred to make me believe she could truly grant me my reprieve. I've been holding up my end of the bargain. Not once have I raised objections. Not once have I strayed from our agreement. But I'm not one of your puppets, Frutra. I thought I made my stance unequivocally clear. Unequivocally clear. Whoa! That is a cool-looking person. That you did. This cannot go on. You need to deliver on your promises, or I'm walking away. She cracks a smile, as stunning as it is rare, like a dragon flashing its fangs. It suits her, given her true nature. All in due time, dear. All in due time. Oh, that's a cool character. Right, well, time to end the night, I guess. Shit, already on night 3. December 2024, 5 nights till New Year. It's painfully obvious that Park has never believed I'd actually turn up for the meeting. I catch him off guard in front of his haven, watching him as he leans against the door, absent-minded, anxiously spinning his ring while scanning his surroundings. In the short moment his head is turned, I creep up quietly and casually, relishing in the oncoming surprise. Hey there, pretty boy, you come here often? His head whips around, and for a split second, surprise and relief flash across his face, before it contorts into confusion. What do you mean? It's my haven. I sleep here. I love him. I deflate a bit out of exasperation, but still manage a light-hearted laugh. You're no fun. Apparently, he decides to ignore me, slipping back into his usual indifference. He gets into the car. I hop in right after. Let's pay D'Angelo a visit, shall we? Yeah, no time to dilly-dally, right? Correct. I'm pretty sure he's ignoring my sharp-ass remarks on purpose. But the way he slams on the gas pedal, that at least gives me a tiny glimmer of hope that he's not a lost cause yet. Either way, the perfectly serviceable vehicle's doing fine, cruising through the night streets, and this time it's not even that awkward. D'Angelo, you here? The shithole he calls an office looks just the way I left it 2 nights ago, except for some new pins on the corkboard, where he charts his crazy, and a trap door flung wide open, probably leading down to wherever he hides out during the day. Maybe we should give it a minute. He won't keep us waiting too long. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Hey, Mr. Detective, you're being paid a visit by a damsel in distress. And then there's me. Pork rolls his eyes, but to my disappointment, without a comeback. D'Angelo squints at me as he emerges from beneath the floor, his lips moving silently, and I strain my ears to hear it. They appeared like shadows, the kind cast by worn-out hopes and dreams of this wretched city. Dreams that could only be saved by none other than Gianni D'Angelo. Saved? That's a bit of a stretch, don't you think? He leans back over the rickety table, shaking his head as if to dislodge the noir cliches stuck in his brain. Kali, a pleasure. As D'Angelo turns to Pork, I catch a hint of a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Johnny? Pork, looks like you're still losing your head, just not literally, huh? Indeed, the sheriff is yet to relieve me of my cranial burden. But worry not, there is still time until the new year. You might yet win that little bet of ours. I probably shouldn't pry, given the fact that my own neck is on the line here, but... I mean, there's a treasure trove of a relationship here to dig into. Anyway, we came here to... Find out how you two clowns know each other. Come on, give me the juicy details. D'Angelo shrugs dismissively. He showed up a while back, pestering me about some anarch girl and her inner voices. Would you believe we clicked over what might just be the greatest movie ever? Which is his way of saying I quoted the Maltese Falcon at him once, completely butchering the line in the process. Screenshotting that so I can look up what it is later. An anarch girl, you mean, what's her name? Sana? Who got beheaded by the sheriff? D'Angelo's already ugly face twists into an even uglier grimace. Yes, D'Angelo. He stops, tossing the gumshoe a cautious look. Go on. I'm not one to dodge blame. I killed her. You did what a PI does. You tracked her down and brought her in. You weren't the one holding the blade that ended her suffering. Same difference. In a rare bout of tactfulness, I decide to not pursue the subject. I'd love to have a catch-up with you, Gianni, but we did have an agenda walking in here. A glimmer of light flickers in D'Angelo's shades as he turned towards me. I hate to break it to you, but if you're here for anything on Castle, you're out of luck. No new leads since last we talked. The gist of it concerns Castle, broadly speaking, although he's not exactly the crux of our conversation right now. Sweet lord. Eli Sansreek. Where do we find him, Gianni? D'Angelo narrows his eyes, squinting at me suspiciously, and fiddles with his e-cig. Oh my god, it's a vape? He vapes! Oh, I hate it. The serpent. What's your angle on him? What are you after? He's like the only one of Reynard's contacts that doesn't seem to fucking despise him. Since our other lead was a bust, he's my best shot at finding Reynard and shaking the Camarilla off my back. D'Angelo tilts his head like some curious, funky, ugly little rat. Leave him alone, god damn. Damn. Heard through the grapevine you're marked for the chop, but shit. Yeah, and I'd love to dish out all the dirty details, but I'm seriously pressed for time. So, where the hell is Sansreek? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. D'Angelo takes a long drag of his e-cig, as if he's really trying to savor the flavor. I wonder if he actually makes an effort to kickstart his taste buds, or if it's just a part of his usual act. Sansreek and his serpents are gone from Harlem, and nobody really knows why. I got theories, but they're just that, so... But you're just itching to tell me, right? I flash him a dazzling smile, but he just scowls in return. He takes one more drag to regain his noir-esque composure. What was that old line? Water under the bridge? I give him a curious glance. His answer was just a touch too quick and out there, as if he suddenly got nervous. But D'Angelo speaks up before I can probe any further. Look, I'd be doing you dirty throwing half-baked hints at your way. I'd be doing you dirty throwing half-baked hints your way. Just check Sansreek's usual hangouts. St. Philip's and the vicinity of Morningside Park are your best shots. They're not far from each other. You might just dig up something there. Thank you, D'Angelo. Those are solid leads. The faint whiff of sincerity in your bullshit almost makes it charming. I know they're not quite Glengarry leads, the Glengarry leads you're after, but hey, on these nights, beggars can't be choosers. So, is this intel gonna cost me the usual 2 blood bags? You keep your stash, kiddo. Just clue me in on where Sansreek's hiding once you sniff him out, and we're square. His ugly mug suddenly goes serious. He straightens up and steps closer, eyeing both Park and me intensely. Last time I warned you that shit's gonna hit the fan soon. But that's old news already. It's way worse now. You can feel it, can't you? I nod almost instinctively, catching Park doing the same. I'm bailing earlier than planned, and I strongly advise you to consider doing the same. I won't sugarcoat it. I could use a lift, and you could use some level-headed advice on the road. He genuinely looks terrified. Park and I slowly exchange looks before shaking our heads. I can't. Not just yet. Things are heated, I understand. But at the moment, Kali cannot leave, and I have been saddled with helping her in a way I can only describe as non-negotiable. D'Angelo sighs, slumping visibly, and waves his hand dismissively. In that case, just keep your eyes peeled for trouble, alright? Yeah, you too, pal. Until next time, D'Angelo. Hopefully under a brighter moon. We're almost at the door when I hear his response, barely louder than a breath. Bright nights are all gone. Only nightmares remain. I should write that down. Park and I come to a stop in front of the perfectly serviceable vehicle. We should... Now, I already know the crap you're gonna dish out. No splitting up, Kali. I can't fully trust you yet, Kali. But listen, it's late as hell already, so we gotta hustle. If we both go chasing Sansariq in the same spot, all we're gonna catch is sunrise. We gotta divide and conquer. I concur. See, I knew you'd... Hold up. What do you mean? What do you mean you concur? A subtle smirk plays at the corner of his mouth before he manages to rein it in. I agree that we have too much ground to cover, and since you stuck to your word since you stuck to your word and didn't flee last time, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt again. I just stare at him, confused as hell, before erupting into laughter. I don't recognize you, man. Where's the stuck-up-his-ass Patty? Who's this loose cannon they replaced him with? Park twitches briefly, his smile disappearing without a trace and his fingers crawling towards the ring. Don't slip my notice. He bounces back swiftly, though, tucking his hands in his pockets. Let's divide for now. Any preference for where you'd like to head? Ooh, I get to choose. Morningside Park or a church? The idea of finding Sansariq in Morningside Park seems sketchy as hell, but hey, at least it's a lead we actually have. Ooh, detour, dread game. Ooh. Park's driving like he's gunning for his personal best. I'm not complaining, but he's being strangely careless. I mean, this is Mr. Proper we're talking about. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, obviously I'm going to do that before we continue with the main story, but... church. I haven't been to a church in ages, so fingers crossed the floor won't scorch my feet. That I find some info on what the heck happened to Sansariq. Wonder if maybe Benoit will appear in this one. If he does, I hope it's Game 1 Benoit and not Game 2 Benoit, because what they did to Benoit in Game 2 is unforgivable. Like, don't get me fucking started. I actually love rushing things. I'm pretty slick at handling stuff on the fly. Sure, I can go off the rails, but I've usually got a quick fix up my sleeve. Oh, bollocks. Well, when someone else is calling the shots and things go south, it absolutely drives me up the wall. Hang on, we need to stop. That's always when accidents happen and mistakes are made. The kind of mess I have no fix for. The kind I really can't afford right now. For the love of... So really, I'm more disappointed than surprised when suddenly there's a soft bang, and Park's perfectly serviceable vehicle starts wobbling and swerves hard to the right, sparks flying out from under. A flat tire. No shit, Sherlock. I grin at him mockingly. Not so perfectly serviceable now, is it? Outrage flashes through his eyes. It's not the car's fault someone left a nail on the street. Besides, changing a tire is a trivial matter, as... Yeah, so do you have a spare, or what? Park shoots me a disappointed look. Of course I have a spare. It's only sensible when... Right, of course. Mr. Walking Perfection. Thank you, Mr. Walking Perfection. Sure. I don't even know why I asked. So you go do what you gotta do. I'm gonna go stretch my legs a bit. Hold on, I don't think... Oh, but I do. See ya! And I'm off before he can start truly protesting. I know he won't leave his precious baby all broken down and vulnerable on the side of the road just to chase after me. He knows I'm not gonna bail. There's little point to it now either way. Now, is there anything interesting to be done around here? As it turns out, there is, although I suppose that depends on one's personal idea of interesting. There's some guy standing in front of a small crowd, yelling and flailing his arms around. A performance? Well, color me interested. I creep closer to take a look. Save us all, save us all. All you've got to do is strategize, prep, and tackle our current reality with clear objectives in mind. And for that, we have to look to the sky to survive. Is this some kind of cult? What the fuck is happening? What, is he high or something? Technology is the future, plain and simple. Humans roaming the land, that's old news. That's in the past already, as Aaron Fletcher would put it. Jesus Christ. It's one of the Fletcher's sycophants? Sycophants? I don't know what that word is. No wonder every single one of his listeners looks like they're about to barf. Oh no. Oh no, it's covering half of the words on the screen. Just a visionary. He's the vanguard of innovation. Where others see obstacles, he sees opportunities. Our society is starved for role models, for genuine heroes. A man's got a plan for tomorrow, and for what we, the collective, are about to face. It's hilarious how Azil is doing the opposite of what he aims to do, given how quickly the crowd is thinning. Oh my god, half the text is cut off. You'll be digging shitholes with your bare hands when he launches us, the Enlightened, into a new era. Fuck yeah, let's roll out the red carpet for an era of failed projects and a spectacular lack of common sense. No idea what the fuck he's saying there. I didn't really mean to say it out loud, but I'm kinda glad I did. I cross my arms, tilt my head confidently, and look the weirdo straight in the eye. There's almost nobody left, so I guess it must have been me. He scoffs dismissively. Of course, how fitting. Of course, how fitting. Purple hair, too. Daddy didn't love you enough? Oh my god, he's one of these guys. Straight to daddy issues, huh? You know, big guy, my old man is quite generous. I could probably convince him to give you a hearty embrace. The whole thing you've got going on here, it's practically screaming for Papa's big chunk of attention. The words escape my mouth even before I manage to process them. A whisper of laughter travels throughout the crowd, and the maniac grows red in the face. A fitting color, I'd say. Something, little bitch. I came here to enlighten the blind masses to the genius of Aaron Fletcher, not to be disrespected by a... You didn't want to be disrespected, but you're out here, all hot and sweaty, eagerly blowing Fletcher's trumpet. My guy, you're a real knob, if you know what I mean. Somebody in the crowd howls with laughter. All of the blood in the body of Fletcher's groupie rushes to his cheeks as he wheezes with outrage, both eyes and veins bulging out of his face. Something, you bitch. Wow, how super original. What's next? I'll kill you? I assume he said I'll kill you. All brawn, no brains. I roll my eyes theatrically as he starts to elbow his way through the laughing crowd. Look, it's been a pleasure, but I'm sort of on the clock here. Something, you. Asshole. Somebody should teach him a lesson. Piss yourself. I lock eyes with him and stop him in his tracks mid-step. Invisible tendrils of pure fear seep out of my skin, enveloping him tightly like a mourning shroud and squeezing. You were saying? I don't know what the fuck... I don't know what he's saying. He could be saying anything. Well? He can't speak, eyes wide in panic and pupils the size of dinner plates. I approach him slowly until we're standing face to face, suffocating him even further. A little piece of advice, boy. If you threaten somebody, make sure you can back it up. Otherwise, it's just embarrassing. I glance down and see a steadily growing stain on his trousers, trickling down into a small puddle on the ground. I smirk and look up into his eyes. Or humiliating. Or both. I calmly walk away, cutting my presence off until the wacko crumbles wordlessly onto the ground. The crowd, unperturbed, disperses, leaving him kneeling in the puddle of his own piss like the petulant child that he is. Well, that was a productive half of an hour. Wonder if Park's done with the tire. That took a half hour? Jeez. When I finally return to the nearly perfectly serviceable vehicle, Park is so visibly exasperated with my tardiness that he's a hair away from stomping his foot impatiently. I know he's too well-mannered to do that, but he does cross his arm and scowl at me with annoyance. How nice of you to finally join me again. Aw, I bet you use that line on every girl you're assigned with tailing. He rolls his eyes, but I can't help but notice a tiny, tiny smirk before he turns away. Come on, let's go. Clues, hopefully, await. Okay, so we're definitely gonna go to the church, just in case there's a Benoit appearance. Probably not. Probably not, but I can hope. Rourke drops me off right at the church's entrance and then hurries off to comb through Morningside Park for any trace of Sansreek. Finding the church wasn't easy. Hell, nothing really is outside the usual New York hotspot list. Once you hit the right street, you just can't really miss it. It looms large, the huge rose window glaring down at a patch of land which in the warmer months is probably vibrantly green. Right now, though, it's just a dead white blanket of snow. I stare at the church, rubbing my hands together and thinking hard. I guess there's nothing to it. I just have to check this place out brick by brick, stained glass by stained glass. The church is bolted up tight for the night, but when has that shit ever stopped me, right? A couple of twists and some elbow grease, and the crusty old padlock snaps open. I used to have this thought, not too long after the embrace. Every time I went by a church or chapel, what if I set foot inside and get fried to a crisp, due to divine retribution? I mean, Reynard did clue me in a bit on how shit works in this twisted new world. He wasn't exactly jumping to teach me anything beyond the tricks of the game, but he was crystal clear that, unless I hit an astronomical level of bad luck, garlic was nothing to worry about. Still, it took some serious guts to step into a church for the first time, and when I finally did, I didn't burst into flames, but I did stumble upon a missionary who made it out of North Korea, and I actually learned a couple things. First off, seeing a holy cross, like a consecrated one, gives me the heebie-jeebies. A bizarre quirk that's totally unique to me, I guess, since Reynard burst out laughing when I mentioned it. Secondly, people with that rare, deep, unshakable faith seriously freak me out, make me feel like a terrified critter in a wildfire, absolutely sure that doom's hot on my heels. Before I got embraced, I never really picked a lane when it came to believing in stuff. Guess being undead decided for me. So, if I'm going to meet my final death, it's going to be in a blaze of glory doing something awesome, reckless, and highly entertaining, not because I got singed by some holy water. There's not a soul in sight, just a shit ton of rats. I mean, sure, they're sort of the unofficial mascots of the city, but this place is crawling with them. They are huge, fat as fuck, as if they ate like kings. I have to step carefully, because I've already dodged a few outraged squeaks and bite attempts at my ankles. At least no crucified Jesus is hanging around anywhere. Guess even he has to crash at his buddy's place when his pad is getting a makeover. It takes me a while to thoroughly search the premises, only to confirm that Sansreek is indeed elsewhere. Honestly, it's hard to tell if he was ever here at all. After a few minutes of aimless wandering, I stumble upon a notice board, cluttered with scraps of paper, parish notices, holy pictures, and what seem to be handwritten prayers. As a connoisseur of weird and wonderful, only one prayer catches my eye, its paper visibly unblemished by the passage of time. It's so glaringly out of place that I can't help but gently pull it off the board to get a closer look. North of the heavens, his grand celestial shrine, brother in the Lord, united by blood that is divine, island blessed by his touch, where saints and angels shine. Well, I guess that's what logo publishing does to poetry. Suddenly, I'm hit with weird urge to share this find with Porrick. I wonder if he would be puzzled by the text, or just crack a smile and start rattling on about its deeper meaning. Guided by an impulse, I tuck the prayer into my belt bag. Then, as in life goes, I promptly forget about it, especially when a whole swarm of rats bursts out of a crack in the wall, their incessant chittering filling the air. What actually piques my interest is a trapdoor right next to the crack, its outline barely visible against the dusty flooring. Where could it lead? I get flooded by the sudden itch to go to the bottom of it, literally and figuratively. I have to. I need to find out, to explore the unknown, the perilous, the hidden. Overwhelmed by a fierce curiosity, I scramble on my hands and knees like an animal, groping around the trapdoor for any handle, lock, or leverage point I can find. Sure enough, there's a small handle, but no lock. Just a narrow slit where the trapdoor doesn't quite fit right. I shove my fingers into the slit and find out it's been bolted shut from the inside. The question of how someone locked it barely registers as a bitter taste of disappointment and frustration floods my mouth. Only now I notice voices drifting in from outside. They're distant, so it's tough to tell if they're a threat or just some dudes on a late-night booze cruise. But there's a barrier to my discovery, and it pisses me off beyond common sense. Oh, shit. I want to get in. Before I can suppress the feral urge, I find myself snarling like a beast, tearing at the door in a fit of uncontrollable rage. It yields to my unnatural strength as easily as soggy cardboard, and soon I've got enough grip to just simply rip the trapdoor off its hinges and fling it aside without a second thought. I look into the yawning darkness beneath. Perhaps it leads to the crypts, or some other intriguing underground sections beneath the church. Not that it really matters. The narrow passage is absolutely crammed with corpses. Oh shit. They're of various states of decay, and none have escaped being gnawed on by the rats. They don't look like anyone in particular, but then again, it's hard to tell with their flesh full of holes and tears. Some of them may look as if they've been bitten by a fellow kindred, with what looks like puncture wounds on their necks. These marks are quite well hidden, though, concealed amongst the bloated skin, rat teeth marks, and the pallor of death. Uh-oh. Right as I fully snap back to reality, the voices grab my attention once more. This time they're louder, more urgent, coming from the vicinity of the vestry. Shit. No fucking chance I'm waiting around to find out who's behind them. I leave the trapdoor open and hurry for the exit, the figures under the stained rose taunting me as I bail. I hate leaving things in such a mess. Didn't find much in the way of clues, but it'll have to do. I leisurely approach the meeting spot just in time for Park to pull over, and so I gracefully get into the car, closing the door behind me. Fingers crossed he snagged a better lead than I did. So, any updates from your end? Sandstreak wasn't chillin' in the park, was he? No luck there, unfortunately. It was a dead end. I notice a slight twitch in his right eyebrow. Is he pissed about wasting time on nothing, or is it about something else? How about you? You find anything solid at the church? Nah, not really. Unless Sandstreak turned into a rat, then yeah, there was tons of little Sandstreaks running around. Can you be more specific? Yeah, it was a real shit show down there. Someone had dumped a whole bunch of bodies in the crypt. I would have tried to check the bodies for IDs, but some sketchy types were hovering around the church. Didn't stick around long enough to see if they were on the hunt. I see. Honestly, that's a level of reasoning I wouldn't have expected have expected from you, to be blunt. Still, it's a welcome surprise, despite how, poorly your investigations turned out. Was there anything of note other than rats? Oh, now that you bring it up. I pull out the handwritten prayer I found on the notice board. Check out this prayer here. I figure he'll skim it while multitasking, but nope. Pork immediately pulls over before he even touches the note. Safety first, huh? What a guy. What do you make of it? Not sure. It just caught my eye. A clean piece of paper among all those weathered ones. Pork reads through it carefully a few times, but I could swear I see a light bulb go off over his head. I reckon you were onto something, Collie. Here, pay attention to the first words of each line. I leaned closer to the note. North Brother Island. Huh, interesting. It's one of those islands in the East River. Kind of a bleak spot, which honestly seems to fit the ministry just fine when you think about it. We both sit in silence for a moment as he absently spins his ring, looking downright miserable. So, this is our best shot, I guess. Sure seems like it. Better step on it. We don't have that much time before sunrise. Alright. Oh, brother, main quest. It might not seem like much, but with all the loose ends strewn around us, we finally snagged a solid lead. North Brother Island is not the liveliest spot, but hey, it's totally the ministry's style if you ask me. Oh no, I'm out of water. Ugh, it hurts so bad. I used to be one of those kids who was always running around and stirring up some shit after school. Shocking, I know. One of the favorite pastimes of my gang of little rascals was exploring the ruins of the old Hill Hospital at night. Well, exploring might have been a stretch. We never actually got inside, just dared each other to stare into the windows for as long as we could. Usually, I was the last girl standing. But let me tell you, those hours after dusk in the fall, when every whisper on the wind, every rustle of the trees was multiplied by 100, they were torture. Now, I kinda miss those days. So when Park and I hit the wrecked pier of North Brother Island and see the derelict buildings nearby, I almost squeal with delight. Almost. The desolate ambiance is somewhat ruined by by perfectly new RIBs, moored along the pier. Some of them have clearly been used in the past couple of hours, judging by the mud and melted snow on the seats. I don't know what an RIB is. Just to make sure we're on the same page, what exactly is your connection to Sansreek? So you know I deal on the, let's call it, darker side of the web, right? It has come up, yes. Well, Sansreek was technically Reynard's client, but I was the one handling all the sketchy stuff he requested. Never met the guy or anything. Everything always went through Reynard, but Sansreek is the only client whom I know by name. I see. You have mentioned before that he and Reynard... You... You have mentioned before that he and Reynard had a relatively good relationship. How do you plan to exploit that? I snort, half pissed that he knows me too damn well, half amused by that good relationship crap, given all it means is they didn't try to actively kill each other. I'm just about to break it down for him when suddenly we're cut off by gunshots. And they're getting closer. We duck down and observe as some guy comes tearing onto the pier, screaming his lungs out in terror. He's running backwards, tripping over every other bump, while desperately trying to shoot at something in the tree line, totally unaware that his gun's clip has been empty for a while. He's decked out head to toe in urban warfare gear, reminiscent of the hunters I had the pleasure of meeting a few times lately. He hasn't noticed us yet, blinded by his delirious fear. Perfect moment to strike. Yum yum. My footsteps are silent on the compacted snow as I sneak up on the guy, quieter than a ghost. In a flash, I knock the gun from his trembling hands. Before he even knows what's hitting him, his scream is choked off by a soft, surprised moan, as my fangs sink into the corded muscles of his neck. I'm not picky when it comes to feeding, but fuck me, he tastes vile. High on adrenaline, muscles already burning with lactic acid from his panicked run. It's a weird feeling, the bliss of satiation mixed with the disgusting taste of what filled me up. That's interesting that, like, people's, like, based on, you know, emotional shit and that they can taste different. That's interesting. I drink enough and lay his body onto the ground, wiping my mouth off with a disgusted grimace. All done? I resist the urge to spit. Yeah, but shit, he was foul. He did look the type, yes. If those were Sansreek's ministers who pushed this poor bastard to the edge, I'm not exactly eager to meet him myself. Park nods, looking at the lifeless body, but he doesn't bother to hide it, so I don't either. We share a quick glance before sneaking cautiously through the thicket, towards the ruins looming over the bare trees. We tread carefully through the bushes, mindful of the crispy crunch of the snow underfoot, but let's be honest, the distant gunshots would have covered the sound of a stampede. Although, admittedly, the shooting has quieted down in the last couple minutes, replaced by terrible screams of torment. We stumble upon several corpses, and surprisingly, a decapitated skeleton with scraps of decomposing flesh still clinging to it. The murder of crows feasting on the scene couldn't care less. To them, flesh is just flesh. It gives us both a bit of a pause. Those fuckers. The screams are almost drowning out the gunfire now, signaling that the ministers might be getting the upper hand. Better them than the hunters. I just hope they don't mistake us for enemies and decide we should share a similar fate. Great, Kali. You've got yourself right in the middle of a fucking war front. All of New York City feels like a silent battlefield these nights. It's just our luck that the theater of war shifted right here right when we arrived. So what's the plan? We could try sneaking past, hoping the hunters are too busy with the serpents to notice us. Or... Look, over there. There's a spot under that collapsed floor where we could hide out and wait for this to blow over. Horik cocks his head, wondering, absent-mindedly twirling his ring. Not in a panic this time, but more like using it to focus. Huh. Finally, he drops his hands and looks at me calmly. I'd say we go with whatever your daredevil instinct recommends. You sure you didn't hit your head on the way over here? Positive. Well, let's kick some ass then. Maybe that'll score us a few points with Sansreek right off the bat. Horik nods and follows me as I kick down the door and enter the ruined building, every sense heightened as my vitae surges in anticipation of a fight. The floor is a jigsaw of body parts. You could probably piece together a few whole bodies from the mess if you were so inclined, but I'm not about to start counting. I walk over them without care, only half noticing the sickening crunch of bones crushed under my boots. As we creep through the building, Horik suddenly stops and flashes 3 fingers at me. I press myself against a wall, tuning into the hunters stashed in the room next door. Jesus. Ooh, gross noises, jeez. Jeez. Horik slyly kicks a pebble to mimic footsteps. Fooled, 2 hunters burst out, shotguns at the ready. But with just a flick of his wrist, Horik has one hunter gunning down the other. Confusion is plastered all over the shooter's face just before I rip his throat out. The last one starts freaking out, blasting his assault rifle everywhere, trying to shoot us through the walls. I duck behind the doorframe, sneaking a quick glance. He's alone, terrified, the crows cawing outside the window, amplifying the eerie scene. But let's be real. In this horror show, we are the true monsters. I take a deep breath and reinforce it with my vitae, retching the voice out of my throat as if I were trying to tear out my vocal cords. Halt! The hunter freezes for a moment, scared beyond belief. Before he can shake off that terror, Horik moves closer, rips the gun out of his hands, and hits the mortal with its stock. And I know that in games that usually means the enemy is knocked out, not actually dead. But the way his head explodes like a smashed watermelon, yeah, I don't think this hunter's getting up anytime soon. The clamor we caused inevitably draws more trouble. As we turn to leave, a bunch of hunters fleets in. Weapons at the ready. We go back to back and switch places, throwing them off balance, but before we can lunge, we hear a loud ting, and the hunter in front of the door looks like he's about to lose his head. And that's exactly what happens. His head is severed by a cut so clean that his body stands dumbly for a moment, before crumpling onto the ground. Behind stands a group of serpents, all decked out in leathers and gold, scary as fuck. For a split second, the room goes deathly quiet, and then all hell breaks loose. Horik and I hardly need to intervene. The hunters and serpents clash with each other, gunshots echo, cries fill the air, and blood flows freely. It's all over in less than a minute, and the kindred, predictably, emerge victorious, leaving one last victim unscathed. The silence that falls is so oppressive that it almost buzzes in my ear. I start to think I've gone deaf, but I see Horik checking his ears, and I relax a little, relieved that I'm not the only one so overwhelmed. The serpents don't move, don't speak, only look at us judgmentally, calculatingly. In this heavy silence, filled only by the scent of blood, the sound of approaching footsteps feels like the crash of thunder. The man who enters the room is barely my height, but he carries himself with the grandeur of a king, ruthlessly ruling his domain. Eli Sansreek, the most powerful snake himself. From the silence of his movement, it becomes immediately apparent that his thundering heels were all for show, an intimidation, a warning. He magnanimously gave the assailants a chance to flee in disgrace. Or most likely, he let them scatter for a more interesting hunt. Hell, I'm not sure if Parik and I should have just bolted. The last remaining hunter tries frantically to crawl away, but he collapses under Sansreek's steel-capped boot. That's when I realize why the serpent is walking so oddly. He's dragging a dead hunter impaled on the enormous claws protruding from his fingers. Ooh, that's cool. The body slides to the ground with a hollow thud. A kindred, who I imagine is his child, second in command, she hands him a clean handkerchief, which he uses to wipe the blood off his hands, and promptly flings it onto the corpse he just dragged in. Standing over the whimpering hunter, he surveys him with sheer disdain, and tilts his head to make direct eye contact with me. Given that you've been smeared with the blood of the cattle, I'm inclined to believe you didn't partake in the assault. Am I right? There is something to him, this youth pastor intensity, that prompts me to answer immediately, and recklessly. Please, I've had enough bullshit from their crew already. No, we're siblings in arms here. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I toss him a sour glance, making me look uncool in front of the battle pastor. The battle pastor. Sansreek's gaze locks on me, unblinking, his posture rigid as a cobra's. His stare is so intense it could make me sweat. If I could sweat, and if I weren't so damn used to pressure. I try to appear relaxed and confident when he lets out a short, sharp whistle. Instantly, two of his serpents lifts the last hunter, propping his limp body onto a standing position, but Sansreek doesn't spare him a glance. His eyes are fixed on me. He's been real trouble, this one. Quite the rogue, wouldn't you say? Of course you would. Why don't you teach him a lesson? It's clearly not a real question, and the only acceptable response is a dutiful yes, sir. The perpetually spinning cogs in my head do a double time, looking for a way to impress Sansreek. What do I know about him? He would definitely relish in a show of power, that's for sure. But in what way? The cruel one? The formidable one? I'm running out of time. I feel excitement rising in me like a tide, and the itch to do something dangerous and reckless returns with suffocating strength. But as the thick tension hangs in the air and I open my mouth to speak, I instantly realize I fucked up. Oh no, what I'm about to do is not enough. Spill. The hunter's eyes are wide with horror. He starts spouting off like a terrified kid, his words jumbled and shaky, making it hard to catch anything but snippets amongst his whimpers. Mission, the island, he said. 1. Eventually, he shuts up, the sobs ceasing to break the silence. All he does is wrap his arms around his knees and rock back and forth, teetering on the edge of madness. Sansreek clicks his tongue in disapproval, and despite myself, I wince at the sound. How unimaginative. Truly, a child would have come up with a better game. His serpent eyes finally leave me, turn to the sad heap of flesh and bones on the ground that used to be a proud hunter. He advances towards the hunter lazily, and lifts him off the ground with both hands clamped onto his shoulders. I watch from the sideline as his entire demeanor shifts. Gone is the relentless intensity, the danger, the zeal. His eyes look soft and sweet when he locks them with the hunter's and murmurs something into his ears, gently as if soothing a frightened animal. I watch with increasing surprise as the hunter melts into Sansreek's arms and embraces him, sobbing into the crook of his neck, and clawing desperately at his back as if trying to draw him closer. It looks intimate, reverent, a veritable encounter with the most beloved divine. Sansreek carefully pulls away, ignoring the hunter's clinging hands, and fishes out a hand grenade from the hunter's gear. Return to your patron. Make him see the error of his ways. Hunter immediately gets up, feet unsteady, and limps away, through the door and into the cold darkness. His gait is awkward and clearly uncomfortable, as he never, not even for one moment, averts his eyes from Sansreek's face, enamored look firmly etched onto his features. Come. He struts towards the pier, his entourage obediently in tow. And of course, we're dragged along too, thanks to an overly persistent serpent who thinks shoving us is somehow necessary. It's not like we have a choice, right? With no more distractions, the path seems way shorter than I remember. I can see one of those RIBs bobbing on the East River waves in the distance. Must be that charmed hunter coming to ruin his boss's mood. Now. Sandstreak turns to Porrick and me, sizing us up with an icy glare. But even though his tone returns to the frightening intensity from before, it carries a tinge of benevolence as well. You have the misfortune of catching me in a nasty mood, I'm afraid. But if you provide an acceptable explanation for your presence on my turf, I might just let you go. Well, I flick a glance at Porrick and catch his subtle nod out of the corner of my eye. Name's Callie, and this here's... Oh, I know who that is. The Baron's lapdog, the court's errand boy. I'm more interested in you. Gotta say, being in this kind of spotlight doesn't exactly boost my confidence. I'm Reynard Castle's child. I run with his coterie, and I know you've had business relations with him. I was actually the one who quickly handled the orders for those trinkets you wanted. I didn't realize Sandstreak's face could grow even more sour, but here we are. His lips curl down, eyebrows knit together, and he glares at me like I just kicked his cat. But then, unexpectedly, he throws his head back and laughs. Loud, free, mocking laughter that makes me lose my cool. His laughter abruptly cuts off, and he's back to staring at me coldly, unblinkingly, perfectly poised. I haven't heard from old Ray in months, child. Whatever you think you procured went to someone else's hands. He falls briefly silent, and then his serpent eyes narrow. Do you even know what exactly it was that you acquired for him? My silence is his answer. Not gonna lie, his words hit me hard, and I'm a little flustered. Reynard rarely deigned to share his plans with me, but it wasn't like he made a habit of lying straight to my face. Why would he hide it all from me specifically? Sandstreak clicks his tongue disapprovingly, and Porrick clears his throat, moving his scalding focus onto himself. Would you mind telling us about the recent dealings Reynard was involved in? Any information could help. I roll my eyes at this stiff and overt attempt at wheedling info out of Sandstreak, but he only smirks, then sighs, as if thinking about Reynard brought him great trouble. Which, admittedly, it might have. Nobody really thinks about Reynard unless they absolutely have to, and by that time, it's usually already too late. I don't mind. Admittedly, it's mostly because that brat was insufferable, fixated on the antediluvians like a child obsessed with a new toy on the market. I'm staring at him, totally lost. Antediluvians? That's a first. Where did Reynard even get those antediluvians from? And why did he go asking the ministry? As if he could read my mind, Sandstreak tosses me a sharp look and continues. Hold on, I gotta look. What is that? Founders of the original 13... Oh! Oh shit, okay. How he came about the knowledge that my clan, and me in particular, hold the knowledge about our most ancient ancestors is a mystery to me. But he did seek me out, asking numerous questions about ancestry, power, and blood. It makes me jump a little when he waves his hand dismissively after such a long period of immobility and singular focus. Let me be perfectly clear. The history of Clan Ravnos was never of interest to me, and I had little desire to discuss it. Neither had Reynard, up to a few months ago. What changed to prompt his interest in these topics? I haven't the slightest. I would bet there's some profitable motive lurking behind it. What I will say, however, is that his focus on, how did you put it, business relations waned significantly. That is news to me as well. As far as I know, it was pretty much business as usual all the fucking time. For the first time during our conversation, Eli's face becomes a picture of true savagery. Gone is the pleasantness, exasperation, tinges of courtesy. All that remains is anger, unrepentant and feral. Reynard Cassel has been slipping in his promises, O child of his. I am done graciously waiting for amendments. I sneak a little look at Porrick and see him nod at me encouragingly, so I collect all the broken and uncertain pieces of myself and put them back together. You can do it, Kali. Be charming, be careful, be calm. Never make promises, even those you intend to keep. I get it, so let me speak plainly. Reynard's missing. Whether he's gone for good or just laying low, I can't say. No one's been able to reach him. I think he's out there somewhere, hiding, but he's off the radar. You've got your ear to the ground here in New York. Heard anything about Reynard in the last few nights? I have no interest in that brat in so much as the objects he swore to procure for me. And since I'm now aware that he had no hand in obtaining them, it is high time that I move on to greener pastures, don't you think? Especially now that I know they intend to deliver, no? Sansaric almost seems like he might lighten up the mood with a wink, but no. His expression snaps back to its usual icy detachment as he leans forward slightly. His gaze is steady and chilling as a snake's. Reynard Cassel meddles with powers beyond his ken. I wouldn't be exactly surprised if this sudden uptick in the hunter activity could be attributed to his actions one way or another. I wait, hoping he'll elaborate on this strange and frankly insulting connection he's implying, but it seems he considers our discussion done. He straightens up and signals to his second-in-command, who quickly moves in to hear the hushed instructions he whispers. There's no way this can be all we take away from such a critical meeting. I catch Park's eyes and suddenly move closer to him, ensuring our next words are shielded from any serpent ears. What's our next move? Sansaric's clueless about Reynard too. Your sire's messing with dangerous shit? Great, tell me something I don't know. What now? He hesitates briefly. Does it bother you that Reynard's been undermining you and going back on commitments that involve your work? Yeah, kinda, and by kinda I mean a hell of a lot. I know he's a bastard, and I'm no saint either. But there's been this unspoken agreement that we're not going to screw each other over, you know? I see. Shall we take our farewells then? Hold up, there's one more thing I need to ask. I back away from our little huddle and cough to grab Sansaric's attention. He acknowledges me right away, but he takes his sweet time wrapping up his chat with his right-hand woman before shooting me an expectant, albeit impatient, look. Just one more thing before we scram. The circulatory system seems to have a hit list, and Reynard's sitting at the top. Any clue what that's about? Sansaric's eyes narrow in anger and contempt. Well, color me astonished. He's been blabbing on and on about his latest illustrious benefactor who would help him circumvent the red market. He makes such a sour face that were we still mortals, I'm pretty sure I'd be spitting with disgust. Seems like he got caught on the wrong side of that slumbering bitch from Hudson. Frankly, good riddance with that. I'm utterly lost here. And who do you mean exactly? My attention remains fixed on Sansaric, but I can't ignore the abrupt, frantic motion as Park begins to violently twirl his damned ring. Sansaric gnashes his teeth and a low, seething murmur ripples through his followers. Oh god, I don't know how to pronounce this either. That Tizmiche? Bitch. Virtue or whatever the fuck her name is. You don't know her? Then count your blessings, child. What's her deal? Her deal is that she waltzes in like she owns the place and steals what's been rightfully ours for decades. His eyes blaze with a pure yellow hue, fangs elongating as his jaw loosens in a furious scream. I swear I catch a glimpse of a forked tongue flickering back into his mouth as he calms down, returning to his usual captivating appearance. I add two and two together and realize this Virtra must have been the one who ousted the serpents from their turf in Harlem. I tried to share a knowing glance with Park, but he's too fixated on that damn ring of his, oblivious to everything else. So I decide to press on a bit harder. I wonder what kind of a relationship Reynard has with this Virtra. Do you think? I do not think about her, child of Reynard, nor do I wish to start. My time is precious. We're done here. So much for pushing. Sansaric fully turns his back to me, conferring with some of his serpents. I strain my ears to hear their whispers, not even out of need to hear what they're saying, but more out of sheer curiosity. But Park gently tugs on my sleeve. I think our meeting has concluded. We should leave Sansaric's turf before he drives us out himself. You're right, I guess. I really hoped for more clues than that. Well, at least we do know Sansaric has nothing to do with Reynard's disappearance. We'll strategize once we're away from this place. I nod, clear my throat loudly, and speak, not waiting for Sansaric to face me. Thanks for not throwing us out on our asses sooner, Sansaric. And for the info, too. We're out of your hair now. I spin on my heel, but his stare halts me dead in my tracks. You should leave the city, child. Looking for that sire of yours will yield you nothing but death and ruin. And if your leaving means that brat digs himself deeper into his own shit... He gives me a smirk, the first one yet. Then I might be willing to lend a hand. I'm ready to snap at him, scream in his face that I don't need his damn pity. But then it hits me like a freight train. He's not offering it out of sympathy. He'd get off on watching Reynard suffer, no doubt about it. But then, his offer? It's like this weird mix of prickly-ass kindness. Something you hardly ever see in our kindred world. And it's that fucked-up kindness alone that keeps my mouth shut. So, instead, I give a silent nod, hook arms with Parek as we dip out that decrepit building into the dead, frigid night. Oh my god, my throat hurts so fucking bad. I'm done. That has to be it for this. Oh my god. Ugh. Okay, that is all for tonight. I said that maybe I could get through the whole game in one night. I can't. My throat feels like it has needles in it. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Gosh, there's only 4 nights to this, right? We're already on night 3. Ugh. I don't want it to be over anytime soon. Well, at least we have 2 routes. Okay, bye!